If you've ever watched someone say something obviously false and thought, I can't deal with this right now, congratulations. You're not weak, you're solvent. You're protecting your social credit score. And yes, it's real. It just doesn't come with a receipt. Most people aren't afraid of being wrong. They're afraid of being correct in the wrong room. Because being wrong costs you pride. Being right can cost you your job, your friends, your group chat, your community. Sometimes it costs you your entire personality. So we learn a new religion. Not truth, tone. Not honesty, vibes. We don't ask, is this real? We ask, will this make me socially uninsurable? And the funniest part is, we still call it having values. No, it's a subscription plan. You pay monthly, in silence. Before we continue, a formal pause. This is not an attack, not a call to action, not a rebellion, not a guide to speaking your truth. No one here is encouraging conflict or honesty without consequences, or saying the wrong thing in the wrong meeting. This is simply an observation, a neutral description of how things work. Everything said here is an opinion, a perspective, a personal interpretation of reality. You are not required to agree. You are not expected to react. You are not invited to feel exposed. And if at any point this sounds familiar, that's not criticism, that's alignment. Every system demands reassurance before it allows critique. So we reassure first. We call it just an opinion, so the room stays calm. We say no offense, so the structure doesn't flinch. This disclaimer isn't protection, it's compliance. And yes, I'm aware of the irony. That's the point. Belonging isn't free. It just doesn't send an invoice. There's no moment where someone sits you down and says, welcome, here are the rules. It's quieter than that. You feel it the first time you hesitate. Not because you're unsure, but because you're calculating. You notice which jokes land, which questions make the room colder, which words get polite nods instead of answers. You notice when a message gets typed and then deleted. Not because it's wrong, but because it would make things heavier. No one tells you to stop. They just stop rewarding you. And slowly, without any formal agreement, a trade is made. You give up precision for comfort. You soften edges. You round thoughts. You explain less than you know. You say kind of when you mean exactly. You replace what you actually think with something socially biodegradable. And the system smiles because it didn't have to enforce anything. Belonging doesn't silence you. It teaches you which parts of you are expensive. This is why belonging feels moral. There's no villain, no authority figure, just feedback, likes, invitations, silence. You don't obey rules. You respond to incentives. That's what makes it feel like choice. At some point, something changes. Not the facts, not your values, the cost. There's a moment when saying what you think stops feeling like expression and starts feeling like exposure. It usually happens in a normal place, a meeting, a group chat, a comment box you stare at for too long. You already know what you want to say, you just don't say it like that. You rephrase, you soften the opening, you add a joke that isn't funny just to make the sentence survivable. You don't ask, is this true? You ask, is this worth the friction? And that's when honesty quietly stops being a virtue and becomes a liability. You're still allowed to have an opinion. You're just encouraged to keep it presentable, safe, abstract, non-specific. You learn how to disagree without tension, how to be critical without being clear, how to be present without being noticeable. Everyone calls this maturity, but maturity used this way isn't growth, it's compression. You're just making yourself smaller so the room doesn't have to adjust. Most people don't think, I'm scared. They think, this isn't worth the cost. And they're right. The cost is real. Reputation, access, stability. The system doesn't punish honesty directly. It just makes it inefficient. What makes this hard to talk about is that it doesn't look violent. There's no threat, no warning, just patterns. Some of these systems fall small here, others scale. If you've ever wondered why these dynamics feel familiar across work, culture, and platforms, that's not a coincidence. Everything else is in the description. Punchline watches people adapt. Darkside studies the structure itself. You don't lose your voice all at once. You give it away for smooth interactions and predictable reactions. You stop saying what you see and start saying what works. You're not accepted. You're tolerated. Conditionally. Belonging doesn't erase you. It reduces you. You optimized yourself out of relevance. Fitting in feels safer because it works. It reduces risk. It lowers exposure. The real question was never whether you should speak up or stay quiet. The question is, what are you willing to lose to feel safe? If this felt familiar, you're probably not new here. Subscribe if you want to stay inside this line of thought. Leave if you don't. Punchline Protocol doesn't need everyone, only the ones still paying attention.